All right, so let's kick this around. First of all, can you tell people in a short synopsis a little bit about you besides what I just said?
Well, I've been in the United States for 21 years, and I originally came from Eastern Europe and from former Yugoslavia, which used to be communist country. Then it turned into socialist country. And I've been in the United States. After the bombing in my country in 1999, I came in 2000 and had my like really interesting life here in the United States, and I'm writing about it now. And right now, actually, I'm writing about a book about suicide prevention based on my own experiences that actually were part of my story, and definitely unprocessed trauma that piled up and eventually, you know, hit the wall.
Well, I'm sure, throughout, and we'll talk about the book now since you just brought it up. I'm sure that throughout your time growing up and living in that country, and I'm sure there was, the poverty here, just like there is there, and there's all sorts of different issues in this country, but a lot of the issues in this country are the same that are around the world. But you can touch on that more. But just to go back to the trauma as far as the book with the suicide, we are hearing, and we do have a male dominated office. We do have a male dominated audience right now as far as that goes. But we hear a lot about, in the news right now that there's a lot of male suicide. It's extremely high right now. So with the male dominated audience that we do have on this program, can you talk about your book and how you fought through suicide in general?
Yes, absolutely. And just to touch on that, Rob, what you just mentioned about high rate of suicide in male
Mhm.
population, I also believe that I actually, when I was in rehab, I had a lot of, male, people around there that went in therapy. And actually, what really that stunned me, I think it's a thing that we don't talk much about it, but because typically we talk about as a society about sexual abuse amongst women.
Right.
But what I was actually shocked to hear, there were like about seven, eight adult men who are parents, who are successful people, and they actually had unprocessed trauma from childhood that actually all of them were sexually abused either by their babysitter daughters, sons, their own older siblings, but they never talked about that because, I guess probably it's a part of society, and our culture that boys don't cry, so they boys
Yes.
don't complain, and they were just, so some of them actually turned out to have issue with alcoholism, some of them actually anger management, and some of them or most of them were actually suicidal. So to me that actually brought up completely new level of awareness. I was sexually abused myself night before my 19th birthday, and through my own sharing of that story, which also took a lot of therapy to understand that it's okay to share, and I want to
Yeah.
invite male or female audience, share your story, because then you will actually know you're not alone.
So let me ask you this. We hear a lot, and like I said, there's a lot of men that send me these questions. And since you are coming on and going to talk about this, I'm going to kind of get this all in one, I guess, as far as questions. But as far as men, we hear a lot, like you just stated in your last answer, it's, you're going to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You can't show any feelings. We did an interview a little while ago about somebody talking about as a man that was in the military that served for this country. He was emotionally clueless. Even when he met his wife, he didn't know really what to do. And I know a lot of guys like that. They act like they're tough guys, but they really don't know how to show their emotions. And I know a lot of women that say they would like to see the men's emotions that they're with. So, can you talk about that as far as have you met a lot of men, whether it's family, whether it's, in throughout life that, don't show emotion or have that? Because I also see a lot of stigmatism toward therapy. And, for women, it's okay. For men, you can't do it. It's against the rules.
Yeah, you are correct on all of that, Rob. And first of all, like if my experience with men who are more emotionally, if I would say, either in touch with their emotions, they might be in touch with their emotions, but they might not feel comfortable expressing them,
Hmm.
But I was exposed, again, coming from Eastern Europe, where typically, everybody was like, all the men are taught, like, again, boys don't cry. Which I personally don't agree. I taught my son, like, it's okay to cry. And I actually, all the men that I was exposed to through my life, excuse me, if I would say, they were like always like tough guys, they always had to be, but I could tell that there's hidden emotion underneath, but again, not enough comfort to express that. And I would like that, when men also culturally feel comfortable, it's okay to express yourself, it's okay to cry.
Again, for people that are just listening, this is Olivera Flacco here on Fire Breathing Rob. Olivera, I want to keep going into the book. So can you tell the viewers why you wanted to write this book and what it's about in general?
Yes, I actually would love to share this, because I do believe that I feel like almost like I cracked the code on suicide stigma. I've been living with suicidal thoughts pretty much since I was a teenager. I was raped night before my 19th birthday and never really shared that news with my family. I never felt comfortable for similar reasons. You kind of feel like, okay, I'm not going to say, you feel dirty, you feel guilty, you feel ashamed,
Right.
and I just thought that was the way to do, that was the way to live with it. And I believe that a lot of people with mental health, I wouldn't say issues, I would call them probably mental health challenges, because we
Yes.
all actually have mental health challenges, but
Right.
depending on where we come from, sometimes either parents or our environment either are not comfortable talking about it, or it just doesn't feel comfortable. I mean, I was personally hiding it for years. So when I told personally my son, like, when he heard that I told him, I'm going to check into rehab because I don't feel that I can handle myself anymore, he was shocked, because typically I like to joke around, I laugh, I smile. So you wouldn't tell that I had any. I like to call that also suicidal lifestyle, because you learn how to juggle your emotions and not to show them, and how, oh, now I'm going to put the smiley face because I'm going into the crowd, So you just kind of learned how to live with it. And my main message of my book is actually, you don't have to live with it anymore, because I lived with that for over 30 years because I thought I had to. And when it really came to the top that I couldn't really, when I became scared of my own self, that I would hurt myself, I definitely checked into rehab, and I said, it can be worse than this, So I went there, and for about a few weeks that I was there, I felt like when I came home, I felt like I lost about 200 mental pounds.
That's
And I
great.
would encourage anybody that has any kind of anxiety, any kind of unprocessed trauma, if they're thinking of going to mental rehab, absolutely do it, because that was my big fear. Should I go or should I not go? What do I do? And so that's one thing, to encourage people to take care of their mental health. And as well, I like to call that mental hygiene when you go to, because we have physical hygiene, we shower, we brush our teeth, but because we don't see what's going on in our brain, we forget about mental hygiene. And I believe that therapy that we were talking about just a moment ago could be part just of mental hygiene,
Yeah, no, I appreciate you telling the audience about your story, and not only that, giving great advice on what people should do if they do have those serious thoughts. And I think that's extremely important. So thank you for doing that. And again, as we move on into the interview, there's so many things I want to hit on. So I'm going to hit on two more things before we end the interview. People don't know this, but if you look at Olivera, you wouldn't know, but she is a fitness model. She does do yoga, but so it kind of goes together, because I think yoga is part of fitness in general, personally, but it also helps your mind, body, and soul in general too. So can you tell the viewers how, first of all, you got into fitness? Was this something that you've been doing your whole life, or is this something that you just started, recently when you moved to the US?
Well, as far as fitness goes, I studied gymnastics through my preschool program when I was 4 years old, and at that time I had heart murmur, and my parents enrolled me in program. My brother and myself, we were there for about 7 years. It turned out into competitive gymnastics, and after that, I started doing competitive swimming through school. And then I had to decide, do I want to go with sports or do I want to go with piano? And just time-wise, I couldn't do both. So I said, okay, I will go with piano because that was my passion, and that's how I ended up being piano teacher as well. But I then said, okay, I will continue working out at home. And ever since I'm 51, and now ever since then, I've been working out. Honestly, the world is better when I work out.
Right.
And
No,
I
I
do go
agree.
through ups and downs, and you're, fitness guy yourself. So, I allow myself here and there like little swings, but I definitely stay in touch with it. I can't lose the physical part of it. Absolutely. It
So
helps my mental part.
can you tell the audience how you got into modeling and that story? I think it's a funny story.
It is funny story. It's totally by the fluke, if I would say, and it just happened. Like my daughter actually forced me to do the photo shoot, with my yoga poses, since she knows how much I like it. And after going through this series of me being suicidal again, I was really diligent about working out. So I also ended up like feeling and looking good, probably better than I ever did in my life, And so she said, you have to do it, the photo shoot. So she posted one single picture of me in a yoga pose on her Instagram, and the modeling agency from Los Angeles ended up, liking the pictures, and they tracked me down, and here I
Wow.
am, like preparing for my third modeling gig at 51. So I'm like, it's a miracle, really. So knowing where I was maybe a year and a half ago with my suicidal thoughts, here I am, miracles happening in my life. So that's what another message of my book, that I want to encourage people. If you feel maybe suicidal now, just know this is not the end. There's more beyond it, And my book will, I'm making it, I'm writing it as a guide to help people step by step. Everything that helped me heal, I would like to share with people. And it actually, honestly, I was first totally hopeless. I was feeling so bad that I thought I will never be able to heal. I was convinced that I was damaged beyond repair. And if I were able to repair myself, I guarantee everybody else will. So don't give up. If you have mental challenges, there's cure for it.
We talk about healing, and we just did kind of talk about yoga. At least I alluded to it before we went into the fitness modeling stuff. My thing is, I believe that yoga can really help you with anxiety and depression, and it really is good, again, for the mind, body, and the soul. As a person that's done yoga for multiple years, can you talk about the effects of yoga in general? But also, you do a lot of hot yoga, so you can even dabble into that if you'd be grateful to do that.
Yes, you're right. I like to call myself like a hot yoga junkie because I love the heat, first of all. And the heat has also, it speeds up any metabolic processes in our body. So if you are coming down with the flu, if you do hot yoga, it will kind of speed up that process, and you almost kind of run through the feeling of being, kind of like sick very quickly. Maybe in a day or two, it clears up. And it speeds up all other healing processes in the body. The heat really helps. And from my experience, like I was doing yoga, all different kinds, but stretch wise, I know a lot of people connect yoga with physical flexibility.
Right.
And so just to kind of give your audience a little, for those who are not really into yoga, but might be thinking of it, like let's say stretching wise, wherever you would be in 6 months with regular stretching, hot yoga can bring you there maybe in half the time. Within 2-3 months, you can feel more flexible just because of the heat. However, heat is not enough. And I think the biggest tool of the building flexibility is the breath.
Mhm.
If you breathe properly and allow body to flow naturally, you can stretch better, deeper, and safer.
Right. So, do you do that in a studio, or or do you do, because I know some people do that in studios, obviously if you're in a hot weather climate, especially this summer, it's been so dang hot outside in most of the country. You don't really even have to go to a yoga studio to do hot yoga. You can basically just go outside and watch a video and do it yourself. So where have you been doing hot yoga this summer?
This summer, I actually have, as someone who used to own, high-end hot yoga studios here in San Diego, I knew how to make a smaller version in my own home. So for my piano, I turned my piano teaching room into yoga room. So I have recycled floor mats, from the old recycled wrestling mats, and I have like 2 humidifiers where I put essential oils so it smells. So I make it like really nice and cozy. And I go there and I forget what time it is and what day it is. I stay there for about 2 hours.
Wow.
But I also, I do a little qigong first to shake off any anxiety before I start kind of zoning in, and then I breathe before that. I breathe after that. Also say a little prayer, a little meditation. So I just really take my time. That's my sacred space.
Can you give the young viewers on here some hope of how they can get through these tough times that we're facing here in America?
Yes, and I will try to keep it short, condense. However, like typically, I think one thing that I learned through my own mental, call it journey or healing journey, is that one thing that we don't look into much, but I think we should. First thing, are we personally, am I introverted or extroverted person? I think that actually was a big key once when I realized that I'm actually introverted person, but I lived extroverted life because everybody around me was extroverted. So when I would tune into myself and I want to tune into myself, they would think I'm crazy. So I want to tell, first of all, whoever listens, you are not crazy. Whatever needs you have, tune into your needs, and people around you might like those, they might not. And if you feel like you need help, ask for help. If it's not one person, the next person can help you. However, when I was going through my own issues, I tuned out everybody, and I just went through everything by myself because listening to others was giving me more anxiety personally, because if I ask my mom would tell me, oh, you shouldn't be alone. But my heart is telling me, you need to be alone so you can figure out. So one thing is recognize what you need. I also would like if you will, I know that there's a lot of grieving and heartbroken people now because of COVID, and a lot of people are grieving without closure all over the world, not just in the United States. And losing husband to prostate cancer 10 years ago, also left me grieving without the closure because he died. He was in coma for 5 days. When I was expecting him to wake up, he actually died. So there was no closure, and that was eating me up for years. And I couldn't express it, and I couldn't really share with others because I felt like people didn't understand. And if I knew then, I should have actually, and I would suggest, like, if there are people who are grieving, my heart goes out to them, but I would say try to find a grieving group. There must be, especially now with Zoom and online, there's a lot of different sources for grieving, and everybody needs to find their own source. I can't give people something that worked for me because it may not work for them. So they need to find, there's now like a lot of sources available through Google. You can search for grieving, for trauma, for all of that, and for help. And if maybe you need to go through this on your own, or maybe you need a lot of help. So just first determine what's your way of trying to heal. And one thing that helped me a lot, Rob, and we can talk about that maybe some other time, that really helped me with my mental health issues and challenges were microcurrent brain treatments that a lot of people are not familiar with. They originally were invented to cure a concussion for football players because they create the same damage in our brain, in our amygdala, as whether it's a physical trauma or emotional or mental trauma. They get that amygdala little piece of brain that we actually, it's really important when it gets damaged and it gets stuck almost like a gas pedal, and it
Yeah.
keeps going just faster and faster downhill. If I can just simplify explanation this way. And so it really, if they can find information on brain treatments, there's different kinds, but they do the same thing. I really, first time when I had it, after very first treatment, when I walked out of the office, I said, is this how normal people feel? I never felt that way. So there are cures. There is cure for mental anxiety, so any kind of mental challenge. We just need to find what works for us.
You've had a lot of challenges in your life, and it's great that you're really coming on here and writing your book and telling people about it, because it'll help them get through their challenges. Olivera, I really appreciate your time tonight. So as we end, can you tell people where they can find more about you?
I'm writing now the book. I'm not sure exactly when the book will come out because it's in a phase now. The goal is the beginning of 2022. I am also creating now the coaching business where I can actually coach people and help them go through either mental, whichever challenge they have in life, that I can try to help them. And I'm right now working on creating all that. The website will be oliveraonline.com. It's not available yet. It's just under construction right now. And I have baby Instagram that just started. My daughter got me. It's Oli Flacco at Oli Flacco.
Yeah, fine. And we'll put it in the description box when we put it on YouTube and also on all the other platforms. But Olivera, thanks so much for your time. Again, everybody, Olivera Flacco, definitely look her up. I appreciate your time tonight and looking forward to doing this again. It should be fun again.
Me too, Rob. It was a pleasure talking to you, and all the best to all your listeners.
All right. Thanks so much.